By the bane of Zeus and Odin's eye. Right, honestly, guys, right now, I don't even know if I'm streaming. Honestly, I've lost all concept of time, reality. The whole thing has gone south, and I'm in my dressing gown. Yes, I am, ladies and gentlemen. I'm in my dressing gown. Why? No, I'm not Captain Dressing Gown. I'm Raven. I've got stags on my dressing gown. Just deal with it, everybody. Yeah, we're triple streaming. We're on YouTube. We're not on X. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. And we're on like Twitch or something. I need to start doing more of the things. Right, listen, guys, let's deal with this. Let's deal with the elephant in the room, right? I've just been talking about the polar vortex collapsing, but you guys on YouTube, you guys don't care about that. Or if you do, I'm sure some of you may. We'll talk about the weather. What I'm going to be talking about for you guys on YouTube, excuse me, is we are already at war. Battlefield UK and the war on our streets. Now, of course, let me just get this out there at the front. Let me get this out there from the forefront, guys, okay? I'm not talking about a full-scale conventional war. Let me be doubly clear about that. I do not think at any time in our existence, in humanity right now, as we are in 2026. Welcome to 2026, ladies and gentlemen. We only have 4 years. We only have 4 years to stop the New World Order's dastardly plan. So, where was I going? Yeah. So, right now, as we are in 2026, we have literally, we're talking about asymmetric. I don't think there's ever going to be a case where. I don't think there's ever going to look, guys. I'm not flim-flammering here. I'm not swizzle-dizzling. I'm not swizzle-swazzling. I've always said this. I don't think we're ever going to be in a state where. I don't think we're ever going to be in a state in the United Kingdom where we have a world leader, or any world leaders actually, European, Russian, whatever. I don't think any world leader ever, it makes no sense to do this. And look, oh God, I've got so much information. I just don't feel that Keir Starmer or anybody is ever going to stand up in front of people and say, ladies and gentlemen of the United Kingdom, I, Keir Starmer, as your illustrious, fearless, beautiful, slim, strong, ferocious on a punch bag, global world leader, I do declare that the Kingdom of the United Kingdom and His Majesty's Armed Forces are now at a state of full war with Russia and their allies. I don't think that's ever coming. I don't think that's ever coming. Ever. There's too much money being made behind the scenes. There's too much. I just don't see that ever happening. There we are. I'm going to accept. Right, I've accepted someone on there. Oh my God, by the bane of Zeus. I've got this guy on. Right, what's happening on TikTok? I don't know what's happening on TikTok. I've got this guy on TikTok. He's out there. I've just got some guy with a mask on his face on TikTok. Listen, guys, if any of you guys no, he's gone. He's gone. He didn't have the minerals. Listen, guys, if you're going to add me right now on TikTok, right? Listen, I'm 6 pints in. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's New Year's Day. I don't know. Is it New Year's Day? I think it's New Year's Day. I'm 6 beers in, and I just accepted some guy. He had a mask on, and then he ran off. He's like, yeah, I don't. Literally, right? Listen, you guys on TikTok. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. Some guy, right? Let me know until there's people are laughing. People are laughing on TikTok, right? So some guy on TikTok, right? He wanted to come on the live stream. So I'm like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. You know, it's New Year's Day. So I let him on. He stood there with his little mask on, right? And he looked at me in my dressing gown. He's like, yeah, I don't want none of that. He's like, yeah, I don't want none of that. I'm good. I don't want no Raven. I don't want no Raven on New Year's Day. Anyway, he's gone. Right, listen, guys, ladies and gentlemen, let me get my opening monologue done. I will close you guys down on TikTok. Lisu is saying that made my night. You guys are missing out on TikTok. And look, guys, that is literally the first time on TikTok I've ever, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. So look, let me start my opening monologue. I will then jump onto the chat because you guys are fantastic as always. My opening monologue's quite long today, so I think I may do half of it. And close you guys down on TikTok. So, ladies and gentlemen, right? The title of this live stream, all right. Let's address the elephant in the room first of all right? No, we're not talking about tanks rolling through London or RAF jets dogfighting over the North Sea, and we're certainly not talking about rubber dinghies. We're just going to leave that. We're just going to leave rubber dinghies. We're going to leave rubber dinghies off the cards for this live stream. All right, I've talked about that enough. You guys, #FeelMeFam one time. You guys know exactly how I feel about that. We're going to leave that. We're going to leave that out the unless somebody's asking me questions, and of course I'm going to answer it. So the UK isn't in a declared state of war with Russia. And I don't think that's ever going to happen. I really don't. I don't think that's ever going to happen anywhere in any part of the world. I don't think any two nations are going to say officially by their world leaders that they're in a state of war with each other. I just don't see it. What I'm talking about is media reports, media statements, not from me. And I have to be very clear because I am starting to get quite a lot of videos on YouTube. I'm starting to get quite a lot of videos demonetized on YouTube, which I feel is a positive thing. As my audience is growing and you guys are starting to understand what I'm talking about and the powers that be are wanting to silence me, I feel that's a good thing. So make sure that you guys that have not become members, you become members, right? Otherwise, Raven's going to be poor Raven, and I don't like being poor Raven. So what the media is reporting on are statements from top experts. Not me, guys, not me. Of course, I am a top expert, aren't I? I'm the biggest top expert that there has ever been. I'm more experted than any expert on this subject. But what the media is talking about is responses from top experts and officials who say we're already locked in a different kind of conflict. We're talking about hybrid warfare. We're talking about asymmetric warfare. We're talking about non-conventional warfare. We're talking about sabotage. We're talking about agent provocateurs. We are talking about Tatushkas. We are talking about grey warfare. Think of it as a shadow warfare. And for those of you guys on YouTube, once I've done this opening monologue, I'm gonna, part of the opening monologue, I'm gonna close the TikTok down, and then I'm gonna be taught, and then I will talk about a conversation I had earlier on today with my friend. He's been speaking to some people in Russia, and they're saying exactly what we've been saying, basically. And I will come on to that afterwards. But if I talk about it while I'm on TikTok, I'll just get that thing closed down. And for you guys on TikTok, if you want to join the party, I'm over on YouTube on the Real Raven 1 and X and Twitch, I think. So we're talking about asymmetric warfare here, basically. Think of it as a shadow war where battles are fought in cyberspace, through spies, through sabotage, through fake news, through influence, through buying off politicians, rather than the traditional front lines with tanks, guns, bombs, trains, planes, automobiles, 5.56, 5.45, artillery, drones, submarines, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and all the rest of the stuff that we would consider as a war. For instance, the former head of MI5, Manningham Buller, I think her name was, told The Guardian back in September that Britain may already be at war with Russia because of the sheer intensity of cyber attacks, sabotage, and hostile ops coming from Moscow. Sharecode Russia's expert Fiona, Sharecode Russia expert Fiona Hill, who flat out says, "These are the people, guys." So look, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on YouTube later on and you're going back because I've been demonetized, all right, these are the people you need to demonetize, all right? You need to Manningham Buller, who is the former head of MI5. I'm just repeating what she's saying, right? And Fiona Hill, who claims to be a Russia expert. That's what these guys are saying. Not me. I've got no opinion on this. I'm just reporting this. I'm just saying what other people have said, right? So the Russia expert Fiona Hill, and you can Google these people, who flat out says that the UK is at war and NATO boss, is at war with Russia, and NATO boss Mark Rutte warned last month that conflict is knocking at Europe's door, with us as the next target. So that's what Mark Rutte said. Now, look, I will give you my opinion. Poland. That's my opinion. I've not changed my mind from day one, week one. I've always said if another NATO country is to be attacked, I think, and this is my opinion for entertainment purposes, I think it's going to be Poland, right? I've always said that. I'm not changing my mind. Even the new, so we've got the old MI5 boss, we've got the new MI6 boss, and I don't know why they say MI6 because there's no entity in the United Kingdom that's called MI6. There's no entity in the United Kingdom that's called MI6. Doesn't exist. Does not exist. Loz Luxford on TikTok is saying, where does it end? Loz, I hope you're going to jump over to YouTube because I can't tell you while I'm on TikTok because I get the video ban. I hope you're going to jump over to YouTube and I will say where I think this ends because it's got to end at some point, right? You know, it's got to end at some point. So even the new MI6 boss says the front line is everywhere, even in our minds. This isn't scaremongering. It's a call to wake people up to the threats that are already here. And we're going to be talking about war on our streets. We're going to be talking about asymmetric warfare. We're going to be talking about subversion. We're going to be talking about all the things that are actually, you guys can look out of your windows and see these things in real time. So for you guys on TikTok right now, I'm going to close you guys down now. Oh, and thank you, Loz Lux, for jumping over to YouTube. For you guys on TikTok, I'm going to close you guys down now. If you're going to jump over to YouTube, I'm the Real Raven One on YouTube, I'm the Real Raven One on X, and the Real Raven One on Twitch, I think, as well. I don't even know, to be honest. I don't even know if I've got any followers on that. I just clicked the button. So I will be closing you guys down now. And thank you so much, because tonight, that guy who came on with a mask, he really did cheer me up. He cheered me up. Anyway, guys, I'm going to close you guys down. If you're not going to jump over, I'll be back on tomorrow morning before 10 o'clock for you guys on TikTok. And if not, I'll see you later. Right, let me turn that. Are they off? No, they're not off yet. Are they off? No, with the... Wow, this is difficult to turn this thing off. They don't want to go. TikTok don't want to go. It's official. TikTok do want to stay. Right, no, off. Right, okay, they're off. Right. Right, okay, so right, let me jump onto the chat, guys, because that's literally like my first part of the monologue, because it's difficult to argue, and this will get me banned on TikTok. I was speaking to one of my friends I had a long conversation today with one of my friends, and we've got like a friend pool. For those of you guys who don't know, I've done business before with Russians. And so, you know, like a while ago, I got banned on TikTok for saying that, what did I get banned for saying? I got banned for saying that, I can't remember what I said. I said something like, I was on TikTok and I was saying something like, what did I say? I said something like, my experience with the Russians is negative, right? My experience in business dealing with the Russians is negative. I've always came out. I've never come out positively dealing with the Russians in business. I've never come out dealing positively with Russians in business. That's not to say. Look, guys, I'll be quite honest with you. I don't hold it against anyone. You know, business is brutal. It really is. Business is absolutely brutal. The best business advice I can give to anyone is if you're going to start business, right? Everyone wants to screw you. Everyone, right? In fact, let me rephrase that. If you want to start a business right now, this is the best business advice. And I'm not qualified to give everyone business advice, guys. I'm 6 pints in. This is probably the worst business advice you're ever going to get. Equally, it may be the best. Everyone wants your money, and nobody wants to give you their money. I think that's the best business advice you can get. And if you keep that in your mind when you're joining into business, and you're going into business meetings, yeah, these guys want my money, and they don't want to give me their money. That's the best. Anyway, so I got banned on TikTok for saying I had a negative experience when I was working with Russians. Anyway, I still kept, we still kept in touch with those Russians, and we still talk to them now. You know, we still talk to these Russians on like Telegram or whatever. I don't, because I can't text in Skrillex. I can't text in Skrillex, guys. I can't. It takes me forever. Anyway, and my friend was talking to them today, right? And he's saying, look, you know, the mood in Russia right now is, yeah, Poland. Everybody's looking at Poland right now. Right, let me jump up, guys. Let me jump up. Templematic is saying, Sean, do you have someone on TikTok? Yeah, look, somebody jumped up on TikTok, right? And I just clicked the button. I thought, you know what? I'm going to close it down in a minute. I'm going to click this button. And I got this guy. I don't know. He had like a COVID mask on. And he was just sat there. I was like, yeah, you're dealing with this now, mate. He was looking. And after about 30 seconds, he looked at me. He looked at my ferociousness. He looked how I was just sat here in my dressing gown, not giving a fuck, right? Cold Raven in my stag dressing gown, just absolutely owning it, right? With my beautiful pale skin, my beautiful blue eyes, and my beautiful jet black hair that can only be likened to a ferocious raven a ferocious midnight raven. And he didn't want none of that. He didn't want none of that. He's like, yeah, I don't want none of that. He was like, what's that guy's name? He was like Jake Paul when he got hit by Anthony Joshua. He don't want none of that. He didn't want none of that. So Galloway Raider is saying Keir Starmer is a bigger threat than the Austrian painter ever was, and look where he is now. Sipping champagne with Al Qaeda pays to be a tyrant. Okay, let's break this down. Okay, so there's a few things that I need to understand. So Keir Starmer is a bigger threat. Okay, I do think that's fair as well. If you look at the Austrian painter, and listen, guys, this is from you guys, right? I didn't know who the Austrian painter was. I didn't know who the Austrian painter. I was like, what are you on about? And it was from the chat. I got educated. So, but let's be clear, all right? Let's be clear, all right? I think we need to rephrase this a little bit. The Keir Starmer is a So let's rephrase that a little bit, but I know where you're going with that, right? Keir Starmer is a bigger threat to Britain. I think that's what you mean. And I'm not agreeing with that. I'm not agreeing with it, guys. I've got no opinion. I don't want to get demonetized. I'm getting so many videos demonetized. It's quite funny. I'm not agreeing with that. I'm just saying that I think that's what this comment means, that Keir Starmer is a bigger threat to the United Kingdom than the Austrian painter ever was. So realistically, the Austrian painter never had a chance at invading the United Kingdom. That's not to say he wasn't a threat to the rest of Europe. All right, so let me just be quite clear with that. Right, let me jump down. Roberts is saying, just been to an Iranian lady in Iran. All right, okay. Right, let me read this before I go on. So Roberts is saying, and I don't really understand what this means. Roberts is saying, just been to an Iranian lady in Iran. So Roberts, are you in Iran right now? Do they give you internet access? She says, this Palestinian flag that all the lefties are marching through the streets with is the new caliphate flag. And God forbid it doesn't get put down in the UK. So all these flags, I don't really, I don't know. I don't know what these flags mean. I'm pretty convinced that in fact, I think it was somebody on the chat actually. I think it was Silly. I don't know if Silly's on. I can't see her. I don't know. But we have a lady who jumps on. Her name's Silly, and she's in Israel, and she was saying that the flag, that the Palestinian flag, is actually it was actually given to them by the British. AJ Aesthetics is saying, where did you get the nickname Raven from? Oh, so I've been called Raven since maybe 2004, maybe 2003. No, 2004. Yeah, because we'd come back from Iraq. So I've been called Raven since 2004. 22 years. 22 years I've been the Raven. I've been called the Raven in the military circles. Look, if anybody knows anyone in the military circles, all you need to do is say, do you know Raven? And that's literally the litmus test. Do you know Raven? And if they say no, you can call them out as a Walter Mitty. They are bullshitting. They are literally bullshitting. Tracy is saying, when Stormer strings get cut, they're done with him. He'll have to go into hiding. He'll never be able to walk free again. He's hated so much. I don't think he's going to get like. Okay, so what Tracy is saying, Tracy is saying here is, when Stormer's strings get cut, when they're done with him, he'll have to go into hiding. He'll never be able to walk free again. I don't think Keir Starmer's going to be gone for a long time. Honestly, I don't think Keir Starmer's going to be gone for a long time. And people write off the Labour Party. I wouldn't write anyone off right now, guys. All the Labour Party needs to do realistically is stop the boats. That's it. Stop the boats. Start conscripting migrants, and they're ticks in the boxes. They have got ticks in the boxes. Silly is saying, every time Sean doesn't have an opinion, I always have an opinion, Silly. I think about the arbitrator in a Tarantino film. You're going to have to give me more context, that, Silly. I don't have an opinion on that. Let me jump down. Right, listen, guys, I'm not going to jump down. I'm going to give you guys more context. But before I do that, I need to light my little thing down there. I've just realised I've not got the heating on. So, right, I've got my thing. I'm going to light my thing. Give me 2 seconds, guys, and I'm going to light my heater. I'll then jump back. I may need to go to the toilet. Give me 2 seconds. Did you see that? Oh. 4 pauses saying my cousin Griff knows you. What, like Grifter? Was he in the machine guns platoon with me? Are we talking about there's quite so there's quite a few grifts in the army, right? There's quite a few grifts in the army. Are we talking about like machine guns griff? I hope you are talking about machine guns griff because that guy's wild. Right, guys, I do need to apologize. I need to go to the toilet. Can you guys hang out with me there? Like I said, I'm 6 pints in. Let me go to the toilets. Let me get back. Give me 2 seconds. Probably longer than 2 seconds to be real. Thanks for hanging around, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are fantastic. Right, let me jump back onto my let me jump back onto my monologue because I'm just conscious we're totally all over the place today. All right. So the crux of this live stream is we are already at war. I want to be quite clear. I'm not talking about the war where we have, Russian ships invading the shores or rubber dinghies or anything like that. I can deal with that separately. I'm talking about asymmetric warfare, grey warfare, cyber attacks, sabotage, that sort of stuff. So lots of people, Elise Manning Buller, we've got Fiona Hill, we've got Mark Rowe. These are all people who have been saying the same thing. Also, we've got people, the head of the the Armed Forces of the United Kingdom, his name is Richard. I can't remember his name. Dickie something. He's been saying that people need to get ready to, men and women of this country need to be able to deal with a war like the Second World War. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the asymmetric warfare. We're talking about grey warfare. And I'm going to bring all this in to what I was talking to my Russian friend about like a couple of earlier on today, and how Poland I feel is the next place. So what does this mean for everyday Brits like you and me? It means Russia under Putin is using sneaky. Has anyone? What's that movie? It's a Guy Ritchie film. Is it Rock and Roller? I think it's Rock and Roller. So the Guy Ritchie film, Rock and Roller, they refer to the Russians as sneaky Russians. All right. Look, you want to get, I've got no opinion. That's what Guy Ritchie's saying. All right. I have to be very careful. Guy Ritchie, in some Guy Ritchie films, they call Russians sneaky Russians. All right. So under Putin, Russia is using sneaky, deniable tactics to weaken the United Kingdom without firing a shot. It's about disrupting our economy, sowing division, and testing our defenses. We, as the United Kingdom, are supporting Ukraine. Now, I totally get it, guys. Look, I 100% I get it. Like, and I won't, like, if you want to jump on the chat right now and say, I don't want to support I totally get that. And I'll not challenge that because that's your opinion, right? The reality is we are. And if you want to jump up and say we are not supporting the Ukrainians, because I don't support the Ukrainians, then I will challenge that because We clearly are. Now, whether you agree with it or not, that's the reality. And like I say this I say this quite often. I say this all the time, actually. We are going to be in a point in our. We're going to be at a point very soon where it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter what Keir Starmer said. It's not going to matter what rent boy got paid by what NGO. It's not, none of that stuff's, none of it will matter. I promise you, none of that stuff will matter. Oh, they fired the first missile. Oh, no, it was them who did that. No, it's not going to matter. It really won't matter, guys. And we are going to be at that point very soon. So, here in the United Kingdom, we are supporting Ukraine with weapons and aid, which Moscow see as a proxy fight. Again, I've spoke about this before. It can't really be called a proxy, but we'll just go with it for now. And they are hitting back in ways that blur peace and war. Here's the key. This isn't inevitable doom. It's a reminder that we need to bolster resilience, from cybersecurity to military readiness. There are a lot of experts pointing out that the army shrunk. Ammunition stocks are low, and we're not geared for a long haul. And I would absolutely agree with that. We are not geared for a long haul at all. We are not even. And when land pirates hit the United Kingdom. Sorry, they're not going to hit the United Kingdom at all. When land pirates hit Europe, and this is what I was talking about earlier, when land pirates hit Europe, they're virtually impossible to stop. There's no stopping these land pirates. And that's coming, ladies and gentlemen, be under no illusion. When they will get the call, and those land pirates will absolutely maraud their way through Europe. And the Europeans are too weak to do anything about it. They've not had enough hard winters. They've got things too good. And when you get things, and when things are too easy, you don't want to fight for the things you've got. You expect someone else to do it, right? So when the marauding forces come through Europe, and everybody's expecting the army to jump up, they won't be there. But by then, it's going to be too late. Anyway, so Defence Secretary of the United Kingdom, John Healey, disputes some of that, however, citing billions in new spending, but the debates on should we consider national voluntary service are... He's not changed his mind on that, in the context that the Defence Secretary in the United Kingdom says that we don't have to have a bigger military. Remember, okay, and I need to be quite clear because this is what he has said. I was watching this in an interview a while ago. I think he's wrong. I think he's going to change his mind very soon. However, let me tell you why he's saying that. So the reason the Defence Secretary is saying, is disputing that the military is too small, is disputing that the ammunition stocks are too low, is disputing that we're not ready for a long haul fight. It's because you can't just take Britain now as an army. You've got to take Europe as an army and Britain as part of that army. So now, the context's different, right? So now you've got Britain supplying this, supplying the special forces contingent of the European army. That's what Britain will do. They will be supplying the light infantry, mobile strike units, because that's what Britain's good at. Really good. Really, really good. There's no one better. So when we talk about conscription in the United Kingdom and, cramming people into the army that don't want to be there, you've got to understand, and because a lot of the arguments are true, but the people don't understand the context. You get one guy saying, oh no, we need to do this, and the other guy saying, oh no, we can't do this, but they're both right. We do need conscripts, but those conscripts need to be used separately from the main military, because the way you use those two things are totally different. Now, I've done that to death, guys. I've done that to death. So let me continue with this. Let me continue, and then I'll jump onto the chat. So let's get into something concrete. So if this doesn't feel abstract, let me give you guys some things that are straight from outlets like the BBC, The Guardian, and other newspapers. Okay, I'm going to give you guys three, maybe four. I'll give you guys 4 examples now. Right? I'll give you guys 4 examples. Okay, so cyber war. Example 1. Uno. Odin. Wahed. Cyber warfare. Russian-backed hackers crippled parts of the NHS last year with ransomware. This is what I'm not saying this. This is what I think the BBC have reported on this. Okay, Russian-backed hackers, and I don't know where they get this information from, guys. I'm just telling you this is what the mainstream media are reporting. I need to be very careful. So mainstream media are reporting, not me. Mainstream media. The Russian-backed hackers have crippled parts of the NHS last year with ransomware, and they targeted big names like Marks and Spencer's, Jaguar. Our Prime Minister Keir Starmer called these attacks as originating from Russia. Imagine hospitals offline or your bank details at risk. Can you see the real impact now? Can you imagine the real impact when you can't get a doctor, none of the doctors are working, it's all just closed, you can't get any money out? Like I always say with cyber attacks, gold standard is to cause a banking run. It's the cause of financial crisis. That literally, that is the gold standard with cyber warfare. So I'm going to give you another example. Example 2. Odin Dva, Fnien. What other languages do we know? Sabotage on our soil. I can remember when this happened and I reported on this, and we were literally saying this, right, this doesn't seem right. You know, there's a lot of these warehouses seem to be going on fire recently. So there was an arson attack in East London on a warehouse full of Ukrainian aid. Now, as I understand it, this was, and I might be wrong on this, but I don't think I am. This was Starlink dishes sent to that were going over to Ukraine. Over the past year, at least 10 mysterious fires have hit factory depots, spots linked to the Prime Minister. We're not saying anything about that. We just gloss over those fires at the Prime Minister's houses that the Prime Minister uses. A Bulgarian spy ring got jail time for a massive espionage plots for Russia. It really is like something out of a spy thriller right now. It is. It's like something out of a spy thriller, because you're getting all these little. I mean, just think. I don't think I obviously didn't live through the Cold War, but like I think we're at Cold War standards right now of these cloak and dagger attacks. Espionage, surveillance, counter-surveillance, subversion. We've also got the threats at sea. Russian submarines and spy ships have ramped up patrols in the United Kingdom's waters, up to 30% in 2 years, mapping our undersea cables that carry power, internet, from the United Kingdom to America, from the United Kingdom to mainland Europe. Sabotage one of those, and if you sabotage one of those, we could be facing blackouts, data chaos. Drones from Russian cargo ships have buzzed our military bases too. And then we've got number 4, information warfare. Russia's running ops like doppelganger, faking websites to look like the Daily Mail or BBC to spread lies and to divide us. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has sanctioned them for malign influence. Ever scrolled social media and wonder if the viral post is real. So, when you're scrolling on these social sites, you get these doppelganger sites, which will look like, you know, whatever your news articles look. And I totally get it. Somebody in the chat right now is going to go, what about the BBC? What about the BBC faking Trumps? And I'm like, yeah, that happened. That happened. Both things can be true. Literally, both things can be true, because we have got we're in such a wild time at the moment. Like, I don't think people have any idea like how wild this is. At the height of the Cold War, you could argue it was the Cuban Missile Crisis. I would argue it was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Other people argue different things. But I would argue it's the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis. At that height, at that pinnacle, we didn't have a hot war going on. There wasn't a hot war going on. There wasn't guns and tanks and drones. I mean, look, when we look back through history, we look at the Cold War. Oh, we were so close to having a nuclear annihilation. Yeah, I get that. Was there a war going on at that time? No. Were Russia actively involved in a battlefield? No. Was the Russian defense, was the Russian military-industrial complex in full swing? No, not even remotely. That's what we have right now. So I believe we are living in times that are a lot more dangerous than the height of the Cold War. They really are. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. I will come on to you fantastic people right now. Right, let me jump down to the bottom. Eyeball Paul is saying we have idiots in charge then, Sean. We have children in charge. Look, why, like, if they're not idiots, why would you think they're in charge? Like, I mean, I think the best example of this, like, without doubt, is Angela. There's loads of examples. The example I'm going to bring to you is Angela Rayner, right? Angela Rayner, she promotes the fact that she's not educated. She does. I'm not. And you know what, guys? And I say more power to her. More power to Angela Rayner for being not educated and managing to become the Deputy Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And it was only a little bit of tax fraud that got her kicked out, right? It was only a little bit of tax fraud. I only did a bit of tax fraud. I'm not educated, though, me. I didn't really know what I had to do. They're just saying, Angela, sign these documents and I'll give you a new pair of trousers. I said, what colour? He said, I'm a billionaire. I can get you trousers in any colour that you want. She said, righto, I'll sign out that wants me to sign. And they made a right load of money, but they gave me these trousers, and I got a matching top. It were right good. Yeah, Angela, Angela, that's not how things work, love. We're not supposed to do this. That's not what you're supposed to do, you know. So, where Eyeball Paul 50 is saying, we have idiots in charge then, Sean. I think that's a fair analysis, but you don't get to be in charge now unless you're unless you're an idiot. Angela Rayner is worth 4 million. How did she earn that? Doesn't she have an OnlyFans or something? Allegedly. Is she on OnlyFans? I don't know. I don't know. Is she on Only? I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm not insinuating that Angela Rayner is on. I'm not insinuating that Angela Rayner is on OnlyFans by the name of Devious Debbie from Doncaster. I'm not insinuating that. I don't know. You could argue all these. You could argue all these politicians do it, and I honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I really don't. I don't think there's anything wrong with the politicians making a bit of money on the side. What I think would be a good way to stop politicians making money on. Look, Raven solves. Do you want to know what the solution is? I've given you guys the solution all the time. So the solution to get rid of corruption in politics is to pay them more, right? You need to pay them more. Oh, but sure, they get enough money. They honestly, guys, the salary for a politician, it's pittance. It's pittance. Most of my working life, I've earned more than not most my working life. A lot of my working life, I've earned more money than like the Prime Minister. And that's working at companies as a consultant. So these are the people that are supposed to be running the country, right? You need to pay them right, okay? And my solution to deal with this, my solution to stop corruption is to pay them more. How do you pay them more and make them work? Well, like you, like me, I need to get out of the bed. I need to get out of bed in the morning, right? And I need to have an incentive to work. Otherwise, I won't do it. For example, who's that one? So Andy. So Andy, you're the last commenter. So Andy is saying, I don't know why this is. So Andy S6J4H is saying, Joe, I'm not even talking about Andy. Right, quick question to you, right? If I was paying you the same amount of money, whether you got out of bed and you was really productive, got shit done, did your job, was really efficient, or whether you stayed in bed and did nothing, regardless of your, regardless of what you achieved, if I paid you the same, if I said, right, Andy, I'm going to pay you the same regardless, what would you do? You're going to take the easy road, right? Everybody is. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody, look, guys, and I'll be quite clear. If you can take the easy road, take the easy road. So, look, and this wasn't a jump. Oh, hang on a minute. Raven, Iran situation is moving at a rapid rate. Raven, are you going to cover it? Yes, of course I'm going to cover it. It's not like I didn't know. It's not like I didn't know because I'm 6 pints in. As soon as I finish this, I'm going to get onto it. I'm going to get onto it. But let me finish British politics. Let me finish British politics first, and then I'll jump onto it, right? So the way you fix British politics, right? You say to the politicians, you say, right, you don't get paid off the gut. You do. What you say is you say, right, you get paid now from your constituents. So, for example, let's just say Gerald of Riviera. Let's just say Gerald of Riviera lives in Devon, right? Gerald of Riviera, he lives in Devon. And he's the local politician, right? So Gerald of Riviera is the local politician. What they do is they say, right, Gerald of Riviera, rather than you get your money every month, regardless whether you're productive or not productive, you get paid by your constituents. So your constituents, every month when they have to pay their council tax, I have to pay it. It's crackers. It's almost like a second mortgage. So like 50 pence or whatever comes from my council tax and that goes directly into your pocket. That would give politicians an incentive to work. That would give politicians an incentive to work, because then what happens is if you run on your election, right? If you run to get elected and you say, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you're going to get your bins collected every week. Every Monday, everybody's going to get their bins collected. I'm going to increase the buses and I'm going to bring a new rail track to the region. If that's what you say to get elected, and I'm going to close down a shitload of hotels, right? If that's what you say to get elected, and then once you get elected, you go, thanks, guys. I'm doing nothing for the next 4 years. You guys have got to pay me. Because that's what British politics is right now. You don't have to do anything for 4 years. Once you're elected, you don't have to do anything for 4 years. If we have a system where the constituents of that place, of that town, city, region, whatever, they can pay them directly, everything will change. But the problem is people don't want to work. Right. Right, let me jump up and let everybody know what's happening in Iran. Give me a second. Sorry, guys, I'm just looking at the articles here. I think this has got a paywall. Has it got a paywall? Yeah, it's got a paywall, right? Not that one. So I think, right, well, let's just, Al Jazeera, I know that's not got a paywall. Right, okay, so let's jump this. Let's jump over. Let's jump to Al Jazeera and let's give you guys an update on what's happening in Iran. Several killed as Iran protest over rising cost of living spread. Iranian president seeks to calm tensions, acknowledging protesters' legitimate grievance over inflation. Look, I don't really agree with. I don't really agree with. And I don't agree with Karl Marx and what was his name, Robert Ingalls, who wrote the Communist Manifesto. But they're right, man. They are absolutely right. You know, when so in the Communist Manifesto, the I think he sets out three. If you, I've got it in the house. I think I've got a couple of copies actually. The Communist Manifesto, which is like a massive liberal book, and they all go to the Communist Manifesto. It is true what he said. I think he says when people can't afford anywhere to live, when they can't afford to feed themselves, and when the prospect and when there's no hope, basically, of getting themselves out of that rut, that's when you get revolution. You know, and he was saying, like, you know, and this was written back in like maybe the 1900, early 1900s or something, and he was saying that, you know, when you get those three things, that's when you get the revolution. So several killed as Iran protests over rising cost of living spreads. Iranian, we've done that one. Wow, at least 5 people. Wow, at least 5 people have been killed as demonstrations over the soaring cost of living in Iran spread to more parts of the country. Look, can you imagine? All right. So for context, last year, maybe even the year before, in Iran, there were over 1,500 executions. Yeah, and I don't mean operational executions. I mean people getting unalived, transcending to beams of light by the government. Over 1,500. You guys can, you know what, I need to fact check everything here. Let me fact check myself. Right, so look, this is from the BBC. I can't be done for fake news, right? Let me share this with you guys, all right? Executions in Iran have doubled in 2025, reports say. So look, guys, I am not saying that executions in Iran have doubled in 2025. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's a report out in the BBC, and the BBC are reporting that. Here we are, look. Norwegian-based, so maybe it's those Norwegian fishermen, I don't know. Norwegian-based Iran Human Rights Group told the BBC it had verified at least 1,500 executions up to the start of December, adding that many more have taken place since. So we're talking about, so we're talking about over 1,500, which I was right. But look, I'm not giving my opinions. I'm just telling you guys the facts that other people are reporting, so I don't get the video taken down for fake news. So let me be clear, all right? I'm not saying anything. I'm saying that the BBC is reporting. So for context, all right, imagine what it's like living in Iran. When, well, imagine what it's like living in Iran. So let's jump back to this now. Al Jazeera is reporting at least 5 people have been killed as demonstrations over the soaring cost of living in Iran spread to more parts of the country. At least 3 people and 17 others were, at least 3 people killed and 17 others were injured at protests in the city of Azna. I think that's right. Azna in the Lorestan province, some 300 kilometers south of Tehran. Iran's semi-official Fars news agency. Semi-official? Okay, whatever. Fars news agency reported on Thursday. So what I want to bring to the forefront of everybody's consciousness right now is the number of people who have been like we just saw from the BBC, and the 1988, and what happened in Iran in 1988, and how long they tried to hide that for. How long they tried to hide that for. You guys are going to know what I'm talking about if you could just Google Iran 1988. You guys will understand what I'm talking about. And this is why I say, you know, these patterns keep, pattern recognition, right? Pattern recognition keeps reoccurring, all right? You get very much what's happening in the United Kingdom. You have this like alliance between hardline Islamists and liberals. And these hardline, these liberals, you know, they think, well, let me give you the example, actually. Let me give you the example. I think it was Tower Hamlets. There was these guys marching down the street. And there was I don't know what happened previously, because I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about with the video. There's these guys, black clad, masks, walking down the streets, and they're chanting or something going down the streets. And there must have been an altercation previously, because one of the guys in the megaphone, he says, "No need for that. We're all on the same side." In this like really unmasculine voice. And one of the guys who's dressed in black, he's black clad, he's got the mask, he's got the hood up, he says, "No, we're not. No, we're not. We're not." So I think that's the best analogy. Now, if you look at some of the videos I've shared previously from about subversion, when these idealistic liberals, they are only useful up until the part of destabilization. When the country leaves destabilization into crisis, they're not needed anymore. They are not needed. A lot of circumstances around the world, these people are rounded up and they are dealt with. I'm just going to leave it there. And they are dealt with, all right? They're turned off. Let's say that. They get turned off. They don't want, because those people will become the hardest enemies, because these people, you know, these liberals who ally with these people to, they think they're moving forwards. They think, oh, of course, when they take power, of course, when there's the big revolution, and everybody's taken over, of course, we're going to be at the top table now. No, you're not going to be at the top table. You guys are going to be rounded up and you're going to be disposed of. As perfect example, you guys go check it out for yourself. What happened in Iran 1988? It's all out there in open social media, guys. Vena Cavared is saying voters believe that Andy Burnham would do a better job. I think a drunk monkey right now. I think a drunken monkey would do a better job than Keir Starmer. Voters believe that Andy Burnham would do a better job than Sir Keir Starmer in tackling almost every challenge facing Britain. Okay, so if you got a monkey that was drunk, and I don't think any monkey should be drunk because I think everybody's got human rights. I'm just saying this as an example, right? If you got there's a drunken turtle, right? Let's just say a drunken turtle. If you got a drunken turtle and you said to the drunken turtle, right, here's my 3 options, and in envelopes, sealed envelopes, if you said to a drunken turtle, which one of those envelopes do you want to choose? By sheer luck alone, the drunken turtle would choose the best option. By sheer luck. Not all the time, obviously, but by sheer luck, at least sometime, that drunken turtle would choose the right option. It does seem that the government at the moment is just choosing the absolutely wrong thing all the time. The wrong thing all the time. Now, you could go, and I was actually talking to, I think my mum. I was talking to my mum about this earlier on today. I was saying, yeah, but like, you know, you think that Keir Starmer's job is to look after. What if that's not his job? What if, and hear me out, guys, get your tinfoil hats on. I need a tinfoil hat. I'm going to have to make it. We don't use tinfoil. Does anybody use tinfoil in cooking anymore? Who uses tinfoil in cooking? What do you use tinfoil for? I'm going to have to get myself a tinfoil hat. So this is tinfoil hat stuff, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is wild conspiracy. This is not true, all right? This is not true. Wild conspiracy. What if Keir Starmer's job isn't to make things good in the United Kingdom? What if Keir Starmer's job is to break things down in the United Kingdom so they can bring in digital ID, so they can bring, conscription in, so they can bring World War III in, so they can bring in 15-minute cities? What if that's the job all the time? That is wild conspiracy, guys, and I don't think that's the case, of course. I don't want to get the video banned, but what if that was the case? Then you start to see things in a different context, right? Because can you guys remember when Keir Starmer, he did that video and he said, right, everyone, we're starting phase 2 of the government. I'm like, what? You start? So this has been a success? So this has been an absolute success? Doesn't make sense, guys. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, right, let me jump up and get some comments. I think I'm going to sneeze. I've been wanting to sneeze for a while. Eyeball Paul is saying that's the same as when Biden said poor kids can be as successful as white kids. Oh, did Biden say that? Did he really say that, Joe Biden? Poor kids can be as successful as white kids. James is saying we are in a battle of good versus evil. The battle is for the souls of mankind. That's deep, dude. That is some deep stuff. Do you know what? It is the 1st of January. Let's go with it. Ultimately, that's what everything boils down to, right? Good versus evil. On every aspect. Everything boils down to good versus evil. And then gives the next question, what is good and what is evil? I would say good. How do you identify good? Because it's always a subjective metric, right? Like being good is all like, for example, marrying a 9-year-old girl would be the personification of evil, right? For me, that would be the personification of evil. If you want to go and marry a 9-year-old girl, I think that is a personification of evil. It's some fucking horrible shit, like on so many levels, right? But for some people, that's totally fine. For me, it would be evil to wage wars on countries and eliminate a lot of their people. It doesn't make sense. Although I wouldn't always say that's evil, because if you're in a war, it gets very complicated. You know, but I do think James was right. Ultimately, this all boils down to, you know, we are in a war. Ultimately, a war, good versus evil. And I do think it's interesting when you say the souls there, the souls of mankind, because I've been thinking, right, guys, what time are we? Right, I'm gonna go down a conspiracy. I'm gonna go wild. I'm gonna go full Raven now. I'm gonna go full Raven. Has anyone seen that movie? What's it called? It's got the guy. I can't remember his name. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. I literally give me 2 seconds. Right, I got it. Has anyone seen that movie, Jupiter Ascending? Right, Jupiter Ascending. Channing Tatum. That's the one I was looking for. Channing Tatum. So has anyone seen that movie? Right, Jupiter Ascending. It's all right. It's an all right movie. So in this movie, Jupiter Ascending, there's like a civilization and they live on Jupiter. That's not the relevant bit. The relevant bit about this movie, Jupiter Ascending. Look, guys, I know some of you guys have watched this. You know, anyway. So there's this movie called Jupiter Ascending, and anyway, I would say anybody watch it. And the premise of this movie is that Earth is it's a farm, basically. Earth is a farm. When the population gets too high, they harvest it. But they don't want to harvest that farm until it's gone. Because if they harvest the farm until it's gone, right, there'll be no more crop to harvest. So it's like some sort of alien race and they come and they want to... Anyway, I think that's got a lot more credibility than people give it scope for, because if we are in some sort of spiritual battle between good and evil, it would make sense, right? Because you can trace this back to you can trace it back to the Incans. You can trace it back to as far as recorded history goes. So yes, I do think we're into some sort of spiritual battle between good and evil. I do. I think we're in some sort of spiritual battle. Anyway, Andy is saying it's a brill movie. I think there were some people saying it was a rubbish movie as well. I thought the movie was okay. I did. I thought the movie was okay. I thought that the use of Channing Tatum, he's just like constantly got no shirt on. And I'm like, mate, right, there's a bit on that movie where he jumps on this, he's got like this hoverboard. I can't remember. I watched it a while ago. He's on like this hoverboard or something, right? He's on this hoverboard and he grabs onto a spaceship or something. And I don't know. Anyway, basically, he's got no shirt on and he's flying through the cosmos. I'm like, mate, is it not cold out there? Just put a jumper on or something. Put a nice woolly jumper on. You know, I'm sure it's Christmas time somewhere. Who's saying it's a rubbish movie? Some people were saying it was a rubbish movie. Anyway, listen, guys, I'm just looking at the time. I'm going to have to start to close this down. The crux of this live stream was we are already at war. The battlefields are here in the United Kingdom. No, I'm not talking about Russians parachuting into Westminster. Although, look, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think that would be the worst thing that could happen. I'm talking about the grey warfare, asymmetric warfare, non-conventional warfare. These are the real things that are already happening. And the war on our streets, I've not even touched on that. I've just realized I've looked at the title of this video. So the war on our streets, okay? I'll throw this out there really quick. Iran, Russia, allied. Nobody's denying that, right? Iran, Russia, allied. They've got new military agreements. They've got new military, how did they word it? New military. somebody Google Iran, Russia military, what their agreements are. It's called something. Basically, what I'm saying now is, from some of the videos we've done, so from some of the articles we've read previously on previous live streams, what we're talking about is the alliances now between Iran and Russia, and those alliances between Iran and potential sleeper cells that are operating in the United Kingdom. I do think that's real. It's all happening. It's happening in real time. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, on the 1st of January, 2026. Remember, we are 4 years away from we're 4 years away now, guys. We're 4 years away till Agenda 2030, where the global elites, the New World Order wants to have their final backlash. I don't know, guys. It doesn't look like we're on the winning side right now. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic. You give me guys some fantastic insights. I do. Oh, hang on a minute. These films are put out there. Not so far-fetched. So when you start wearing foil hats, I say we're on purpose to take a wee. What I will say on this, and I've said this a few times, has anybody watched Independence Day recently? You know, like I think it was 96, like the first one, Will Smith. Look, guys, I recommend everybody to watch. Go on. What was just said? Independence Day. Go and watch Independence Day again. And the amount of subliminal, subliminal messages in Independence Day is absolutely fantastic. It is, guys. Like the subliminal hits in Independence Day are absolutely phenomenal. But on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10, and I bid you good evening. Oh, hang on. And Sherry, Templar's Sherry Hep is saying, good night all, stay safe and get prepping. And with all that, guys, I'm going to leave it. And I hope you all take Sherry's advice. And good night, good fight, good light, stay bright.